Hello and welcome everybody to this another lesson, which is barriers to effective listening or effective communication. Well, there are going to be a few barriers forever. There are going to be some barriers and they will stay there forever. And we will be talking about some of them. Previously, we had covered types of listening and trait of a good listener. And here's a reminder part to it. I'm Adnan, and let's move on to the next slide. The first thing we have here is environmental conditions. Environmental conditions like humidity, temperature, and atmospheres limit the listener's span of listening. Cloudy atmosphere may cause a listener to sleep. So it's important that you have a very good environment around you. Number two factor would be space distance. Distance we talk about. Distance between the speaker and the listener from long distances, it may affect the listening process. If the speaker is talking from a long distance, the listener may struggle to grasp, to have a hold of what the speaker is actually trying to talk about. So the distance matter again. The distances matter, the distance matters. The number three is omniscient attitude of the listener. Yes, some of the people consider themselves as know all, like they know everything about men, about people. They think that they have perfect knowledge of everything in the world. According to them, the listening to them is pure waste of time. They are not listening to the speaker because they think they already know what he is going to say. Such behavior, such attitude is a greater barrier to listening. Next, we will see is infrastructure. So poor infrastructure may affect the listening process. Lack of proper ventilation, light, acoustics can act as a barrier to listening. Then we have speed of the speaker. Speed of the speaker can act as a barrier to listening. If the speaker is speaking too speedily, the listener will have no alternative, or the listeners have no alternative left than watching the speaker. I mean, they will be only watching him and they won't know what to do. The human brain receives sounds at a specific speed. If this speed is not maintained properly, the listeners may get distracted. Then we have nonverbal communication. Speakers no use, I mean, if the speaker is not using any facial expressions, gestures, body language, eye contact, and other factors which can create, they can definitely create a barrier to listening. If the speaker relies only on the verbal expressions, the listener will be tired of constant bombardment of the words and verbal expressions. So make sure that there are some non-verbal gestures, there is some kind of non-verbal communication going on. Voice and tone of the speaker. The listener will feel bored and fed up of listening to monotonous speech. If the speaker's voice is not audible, the listener may not listen it attentively. He may not pay attention to it. On the contrary, many speakers maintain monotonous tone, which irritates the listener. However, now move on to the next point that we need to know about it. Lack of factual information. Many times listener does not listen attentively and carefully because he or she does not find any factual information in the speech. And there's nothing worth listening. There's no interesting factors, no new information, which is boring. Okay, so the speaker has to avoid or shun such acts. Another factor which stands as a barrier is language of the speaker. If the speaker is using high technical jargon or maybe lexical technology, technical words or expressions, and difficult words, the listener will be clueless about the meaning of those words. Now, the listeners will try to find meaning of those words instead of listening to the speaker. I mean, they might Google it, they might look up a dictionary or something, but they won't be paying attention. So this is, again, a bad thing. Then we have horn effect in the listener. The horn effect tendency is to underestimate a person as a bad person in all the fields because he's bad in one of the fields, so they don't listen to him. The listener, all the listeners reject and nullify the speaker's chance for more amount of time, and because the listeners dislike the speaker. I mean, there's already that they already have a built-in image that the speaker does not anything. He's bad at doing something, and because of that bad, experience, because of that bad work or action, he is perceived as bad in all the fields. So they don't listen to him. They dislike him. They just degrade him. That's going to be the right word for that, right? So there shouldn't be that kind of thing, and that's a barrier again. And then span of the speech, the timer. This process of listening can take place for a limited period of time. If the speaker is talking for hours and hours at a stretch with no pauses, no breaks, the listener turns into a pretentious listener, like he's pretending to listen, and might start yawning or doze off, and etc. etc. So make sure that you don't do it too. It's another barrier. So these are the barriers that we have talked about, and I hope we'll be covering the techniques to improve listening skills in our next video. Thank you very much. I hope you've liked it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.